All right, hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and let's just jump right into it. So, if you have been following the series that I've been doing, it's on Algebra 1 worksheets, but I figured I'd take a break from that just for today and just talk about something a little bit more general than how to specifically solve algebra worksheets. And this three-step process is the key to solving any word problem. I like to talk about this a lot when I'm tutoring people in SAT prep, ACT prep, because there's a lot of word problems. It's like all word problems, practically all word problems, especially on the calculator section of the SAT. But for any math class, you're probably going to run into some word problems at some point. So there's three things that you can do to tackle any word problem, and let's talk about what those three things are. So before we dive in, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to leave a space here because the three things, step one actually kind of has its own three steps, but that doesn't make it like 5 steps. It's just one thing, and I'm going to show you why it's just kind of like one thing. Okay. Now, before we get into these three things, there is an awesome free guide that I want you to grab. It's on my website, myersmathematics.com. It's called The 5 Math Mistakes Everyone Makes and How to Avoid Them. So you can check that out. It's an awesome free guide, and it's on my website, myersmathematics.com. The link to that will be in the description below. Okay, so step one, you want to mark the text. Mark the text. Okay, and that you might have been like is that an English word? And it kind of is, kind of an English phrase. But in English, you mark the text a little differently, and it's for different reasons. And I don't even know what all the reasons are that you mark the text in English class because I haven't taken an English class since Vietnam. But I do know that marking the text in math class is, in my opinion, way easier and more effective. So here's how you mark the text. Okay, so step A, you circle the numbers. Circle the numbers. Step B, you underline the context. Underline the context. Okay, which is usually the couple words before and after the number. So a few words before and after each number. Okay, so that's what I mean by context. Just a few words before and after each number, unless the number is the first word in a sentence, or the last word in a sentence, or like if there's a comma. Usually, if there's a comma, that's the end of a thought. So again, this is kind of getting a little Englishy, but use a little bit of common sense there too. But underline the few words before and or after the number so you can understand what that number means and what it is. And then box or highlight what they're asking. Box or highlight what they're asking. Right? And usually it's in the form of a question. Normally it's like, hey, what's this? Sometimes it's like, hey, please find X. So it's like a command. But usually it's a question. Could be either a question or a statement or like, hey, do this kind of thing. But any one of those, that's going to be really important too because you want to give them what they want, right? Like they're being all demanding, and unfortunately, in order to get the grade, you have to give them what they want. So you want to highlight or box what they're asking so that way you can give them exactly what they need to answer the question, okay? And then one more thing. When I say circle the numbers, I also mean variables because variables are just numbers you don't know yet. Okay, so circle numbers and variables is what I could say. Not, variables are numbers as well in a way, but make sure you circle both, right? And I would just say letters too, but like technically the whole sentence is made out of letters besides the numbers. So there you go. Mark the text. Okay, this is really, really helpful, especially on very wordy word problems where they like to just give you all this context and you're like, I don't care that Sally went to the store. Just tell me how many things she bought and I'll, figure out with tax on it or something. I don't know. So marking the text, super helpful. Now this next one, these all three of these are optional. Okay, this is not like do step 1, do step 2, do step 3, and then click your heels 3 times and you have the answer. Okay, this is not one of those. It's just 3 things. They're not in order. You don't have to do them in order. And you don't have to do all 3 things. Okay, number 1, I think, is probably the most important one out of the 3. This next one, I would say, is actually the least applicable out of the 3. It could be the most important in some problems, but draw a picture. Draw a picture, and I'm going to expound upon that a little bit. So, draw a picture. It might not always be like a picture. So sometimes it's a word problem, and there's like a scenario where somebody's like, there's a boat traveling across the river upstream and then downstream or something. So a picture could definitely help there, because then you can draw a picture and then label your picture, and then you're like, okay, this is what's going on here. So that's really helpful. If they want you to solve some sort of algebra equation and there's not really any context to it beside that you could like draw a picture of, like there's not really like a scenario, but it's still a word problem, you could still draw a picture. But the other thing you could do is you could draw a chart, right? Draw a chart, draw a picture, graph it, right? A graph, right? So on a regular number line or an XY axis or anything like that, that could really be helpful. And then also, sometimes if they already have a picture drawn, you can draw another picture that's better. If they don't have it drawn to scale on purpose and the dimensions look kind of weird, you could draw it again to scale. Or if it looks like the angles are really like close to 90 and you're like, I know this angle shouldn't be 90 and that one should be like a little bit obtuse or something, then you can draw it a little differently so that it's a little easier to figure out which side is which, and kind of like draw it not to scale on purpose. Or you can even do this. You can draw several versions of the same picture. Meaning if they give you a picture, but there's a lot going on, it's just real busy picture. There's a lot of lines and angles and circles or whatever shapes. This could be like a geometry question. In geometry, sometimes the picture they give you just has a lot going on, and you're like, what's happening right now? And if you do that, you're not alone. I've done that before several times. And what you do to fix that is just draw pieces of that picture in different places and just focus on what's important in each of those little pictures. And then you kind of piece it back together to get the answer. Okay, so that can be really helpful too, right? Drawing a picture. And then step 3, the last one, and I think the second most useful out of the 3. So again, they're not really in any particular order. I just kind of made up this order. I think maybe I'll reorder them later on because the order doesn't matter that much. But the third and final thing, is to start somewhere. Okay? Start somewhere. This maybe sounds a little weird, like, well, yeah, duh. But think about it. If you are stuck, you don't know how to get the answer, right? And a lot of times I don't know how to get the answer right off the bat too. If it's a really long word problem, sometimes I don't know exactly what to do to get to the answer, but what I do is I just start. If you don't know how to get to the answer, just start doing something. Right? Start doing something. Just find one thing out about the problem that you didn't already know. If, like for a geometry problem, let's say, you've got a picture and there's a lot of different angles and you're trying to find an angle in that picture and you don't know how to find it. Well, is there an angle in that picture that they didn't give you that you can find out? Right? Get that easy win. Get that easy, quick first win That way you can start on a good note. Like, oh, I just found this thing. It's not the answer, but this could lead to the answer. And most of the time, it does. Most of the time, if you just find something out that you didn't already know, it ends up leading to something else, which could be the answer, or then leading to another thing, which could be the answer, or, it could just keep going, depending on how long the problem is. So these are the three things, right? Mark the text, draw a picture, and start somewhere. I was going to do an example with this, but I wanted to keep it fairly short, and I ended up being a little bit wordy. Anyways, just because that's who I am, I apologize. Sorry, not sorry. But I'll probably do an example of this in my mini course, the SAT math mini course that I have. So when that is available and you want to be one of the first people to get that, go ahead and go to my website, myersmathematics.com, and I have a free guide on there. It's called The 5 Math Mistakes Everyone Makes and How to Avoid Them. If you get that free guide, you also end up needing to give me your email so that I can give you the free guide. And when I have your email, I will email you as soon as that course comes out. It's an awesome, awesome course on just things like this that you can really hone in on with some good examples so that you know how to use it, and then some practice and some follow-up as well. On there is also a thing about calculator programs and how to use them on the SAT. There's also something about how to cancel or eliminate options on multiple choice tests. Right? This is specifically for the SAT, but this can also be for the ACT. This can be for a class as well, and I'll tailor it to individual classes later, but this is specifically going to be an SAT prep mini course that I'm launching. So go ahead and check that out when it comes out. And if you give me your email, I will email you as soon as it comes out. And with that, I am out as well, and you have a good one.